Sweet.
Here we go.
All right. Oh, we're live. Let's go. So today we're here with Jake from Rockin' Spur, the man, the myth, the legend from Fort Collins. But Jake, if you want to introduce yourself, have at it.
It sounds like we got a little echo.
Like, can you?
Yeah, let's see. Let's see
good?
the echo. Might be your volume might
Is
be too loud.
it mine? I turned my volume way down. Well, Jake, I'm assuming that everyone could hear it, but if you want to introduce yourself, you go ahead.
It's kind of.
Is it bad?
I hear it too. Do you have it up? We got tech issues.
Tech
Yeah.
problems. Wait, so is it not working or is it working?
Can you hear it, Jake, by the way? Can you hear us talk to you? Yeah, it's delayed on his side, I think. I can hear
I can hear y'all, but it's looping, and there's a bunch of delay.
I don't know how that works.
That's where we need the VAs on us right now. For everyone watching, we need the VAs.
Where's our IT guys at?
We need the IT tech.
Shoot.
What about now? Can you hear us? Like, do you hear us right when we're talking right here? Like, you hear us?
It's just like looping.
Huh. Maybe for you guys listening too, let us know what you guys hear right now.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know. But maybe you have anything else downloading in the background, Jake?
No.
Sometimes I could. Well.
If any of you guys leave some comments down here. We got 6 people watching, so leave us some comments. Can you guys hear us? Can you hear me speaking at all? Very good at all. Very good at all. That's a good sentence.
I hear on the Facebook thing. I can hear it. I don't know. So how delayed is it?
I think I fixed it. I think it's good.
Oh, let's go.
Cool. I think it was my bad. I think I accidentally had 2 StreamYards up, so my fault.
Oh.
No, there you go.
That's probably hey.
Oh,
there we go. We
that?
learned something
Don't
every day.
apologize to us, man. We're not no Steve Trang, man. Don't have to apologize.
All right, let's jump in. So sorry about that, but yeah, my name is Jake McKinney. My main market is Amarillo, Texas, and the surrounding Panhandle. We're kind of expanding all into West Texas. I've been a full-time real estate investor for the last few years. Also a third-generation cattle rancher. That's my other job that I do. And last year, me and my family decided to move to Fort Collins. So we've spent most of my time in Fort Collins, Colorado, but I still go back to Texas for a few days every month and kind of check on things back there. So
nice. So you're a third-generation cattle rancher. So you grew up.
What does that consist of?
Tell us what that and riding the horses. And...
Yeah, I don't ride as much anymore because I've had some bad horse wrecks. I've got a few herniated discs in my neck and my back from getting pitched off horses. But I grew up riding horses since I was a little bitty kid and working cattle and all that kind of fun stuff. So,
can I tell you a funny story, Jake?
Yeah.
About riding horses. So you're gonna laugh at this. Gino's probably already knows it, but when I was 3, my parents put me on a pony at this like little thing where you ride around the pony around like the little thing. And the truck like honked its horn, and I just got bucked off, and I would never get back on another horse.
Well, maybe someday I'll have to get you back on a horse.
I know, right? I gotta do it.
What's up, Walter?
Anyways, Walter's here. What's up, man? So, what brought you up to Fort Collins from Texas? And I assume you're still doing real estate down in Texas and all the businesses down there. So.
To be honest, it's just lifestyle. Like I love the mountains, love fishing, hiking, snowboarding, all that kind of stuff. And like my wife and I both love Colorado. I've lived in Colorado different times. We always thought we would move back to Colorado at some point, and just wanted to raise my kids here because I love it and I love the mountains. So
heck yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. That's kind of what.
One of the wonderful things about real estate is that you can do your job from anywhere, as Gino has attested to, doing deals from Portugal. So,
right? Isn't that crazy? That's crazy. But so you were a cattle rancher growing up. How'd you get into real estate? How'd that come about?
I think a little bit by accident. So the the weird and funny story is that my uncle passed away about 8 years ago, and I love my uncle, but he had this weird property in New Orleans, actually, that was a fourplex, and I loved him to death, but he was a hoarder, and so when he died, we had never even been to this property. My wife and I go to New Orleans with a bag of keys and an address to find this property. And we walk up and we're like, oh my God, what have we got ourselves into? Because it was in such bad shape. Everything needed a full rehab, and the entire fourplex was completely full to the rafters.
Oh God, he really
stuff.
was.
Jesus.
Yeah. So we started our real estate career by rehabbing a hoarder house remotely in a different state.
That sounds miserable.
It kind of was, and it was also kind of fun. We learned a lot of lessons. We got screwed over by a contractor for 30 grand. It took almost 2 years to do the rehab. But at the end, we have a beautiful house that we've more than doubled the value of what we've put into it. We rent out the front 2 units long term. We rent out the back Airbnb, and we keep 1 unit for ourselves and go down there and enjoy New Orleans whenever we want to. And so the cash flows really, really well. And we've actually done some things that we've refied it and put a line of credit on it to fund other deals that we're doing in other parts of the country. So we did a lot of different things on that deal and learned a lot, but it was a ton of work. And so that was our start in real estate.
And when was this around too, Jake?
This would have been 8 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So all around the same time. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. And it took us, and after that, I thought, I'd like to buy some more rentals, but there was a lot of analysis paralysis and looking at deals on the MLS, and never could figure out what I was going to do, and listen to 10,000 hours of Bigger Pockets. And it took a long time to actually get to the point where we started doing more deals after that one, which was about 3 years ago, and then really transitioned full time a couple years ago. The ranch kind of went on autopilot. I brought in partners on the ranch to operate the ranch, and I have really good employees that operate the ranch, which freed up a lot of my time to do other things, and I could go pretty much full time in real estate.
Heck yeah! So what was it happening between that 3rd and 8th year? Or what was happening from the beginning? Like, you left 5. You said 3 years ago you started again. What about the 5 years in between that? What were you doing? The ranch?
Yeah, I mean, I was still, working my normal job in the ranch and taking care of all my family's business in the ranch, right?
Gotcha.
And trying to think, I want to diversify my investments and pick up a little rental here, a little rental there, and never could pull the trigger on anything because I was just stuck in analysis paralysis, and I felt like I really had to jump off the deep end and go full time to start doing it. Yeah.
Gotcha. So then you kind of like restarted with doing some flips and stuff, and then dabbled in it for a little bit. Is that kind of what happened?
Well, it's funny that the next deal after that is sort of my story maybe is a little bit backwards. So I was starting to look for deals to buy as rentals, and started doing a little bit of direct to seller marketing. In the beginning, it was just me driving around in my truck with Deal Machine, sending postcards, right? And right when I started that, I also started networking with everybody that I could about wanting to invest in real estate. And I ended up linking up with a couple guys who were in the same boat as me, who wanted to invest in real estate. They had other jobs, and they were looking for their first deal. And while I'm out searching for my first single family, one of these guys calls us up and says, "Guys, I've found a deal." I was like, "Awesome, let's hear about it." And he said, it's a 96 unit apartment complex.
Oh, there you go again, starting backwards.
Yeah. So we ran the numbers, and it was a really good deal. We were buying it for $33,000 a door, off market, and rents were averaging $650. So smoking deal.
Really good.
We had no idea how we were going to buy an apartment complex, though. So
significant amount of cash right there coming out.
yeah. So the benefit is that I'd spent those last few years reading every book and listening to every Bigger Pockets podcast that I could, and
Exactly.
I knew the theory of what we should do, that we should do an apartment syndication. I just had never done it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we had 60 days to close on it and raise $1 million, and we did it. We put a syndication together. We raised $1 million. We actually got financing through Berkadia and Freddie Mac debt. So we had 30-year non-recourse debt on it with 10-year fixed at low interest rates. Really, really good debt. And that was our first deal that we did, which was an apartment complex. So
how'd you get that debt, being that your first deal you guys bought? Such good debt.
I think if I have, like, my skill set in real estate really is developing relationships with lenders and underwriting. So I'm really comfortable talking to bankers, and I spend most of my time networking with bankers. I've got a lot of bankers that I can call on, depending on what kind of deal that it's in. I've got 5 hard money lenders. I've got 3 or 4 big institutional lenders. I've got 3 or 4 local regional lenders that I can work with. And so I had already started that process before I got into a deal. I was, again, the analysis paralysis, and in one way paid off, because I had spent all this time talking to bankers and lining up my financing and doing all this kind of stuff before I ever did one deal. And so I was ready. I was ready to do that. And I had already built this relationship with a loan officer at Berkadia. And he was a newer loan officer, and he was willing to take a chance on us and kind of go to bat for us. And we were able to get that debt that honestly nobody else in our market was really even looking for that kind of debt. They were just going with local regional banks.
Yeah.
So like talk, I guess, like, let's go through the process, because you get hit with this thing. You're like, I got this concept that I understand called apartment syndication, and I understand I have a relationship with a banker. So how'd you like tie it all together from like a concept to actually making it happen in 60 days?
A lot of long hours, but the basic concept is to execution is, first you need an SEC lawyer, right? So you can't do this on your own. This is a team sport for sure. And the number one person on your team in an apartment syndication is an SEC lawyer. So we started asking around who's the best SEC lawyer in our area, and we found one who was fantastic. And he had done syndications before. He does them all the time. And so then it was an education process with him of just sitting in his office and asking him a bunch of questions about, how do we do this? How do we do that? What are we going to do about this? And really learning on the fly about how to do it. Because it's one thing to know the theory, but then in practice is a different thing. And then it was putting together a pitch deck and making phone calls and raising money. There was a lot of administrative stamina that goes into something like that, especially when you're talking about the institutional debt, like Freddie debt. Like, their requirements and their paperwork is no joke. It's pretty brutal to get through that process, but on the end of it, you have non-recourse debt, which other than maybe doing a sub 2, that's the best debt you can get.
That is that right there, for sure.
So that's pretty awesome. So I guess like just lean on the SEC lawyer and just who's done these before, and just like a lot of things is just figure it out as you go. Like we run up against a problem, just
What's fun in that who,
Google.
not how.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
who
exactly.
of the attorney. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, one thing is I've done a lot of different things in real estate, and I think it's important not to have shiny object syndrome and start chasing different stuff.
Yeah.
But it's important to realize the opportunities that present themselves and take advantage of them and not be afraid to take action on them because it's not in your narrow view of what you were going for. I was driving around my truck sending postcards through Deal Machine and I could have easily said, like, I have no idea how to buy an apartment complex, and pass on that, but we didn't do it. And 2 years later, we've built more than, looked at it recently, I think we've built almost $3 million worth of equity into those apartment complexes and cash flowed $100,000 a year.
Yeah, cash flow.
That's awesome.
Free money in there.
Yeah.
That's significant right there.
No tax.
So I guess like one other thing too is like I have a question. It's like if you have a deal like that, you put together a pitch deck. And what are some of the things you're looking for? The investors are looking for these syndications.
I think one thing I learned is that you should probably have, again, that SEC lawyer is going to be the most important person on your team, and he should be local. Because a lot of the advice that he gave us was structure it like this, don't structure it like that, because people in this area are used to seeing something like this, right? Where when I was doing my own research on the internet and coming up with these complicated structures for how you could do a syndication and bringing them back to him, he was like, don't do that. Nobody's going to understand that in our market, right? And so keep it simple. And so we had a very simple structure for what we did. I think that's important, is that every market's a little bit different. What they do in New York or LA is way different than what they do in the middle of America.
Yeah, that makes good sense. So that's definitely something I didn't know. So I like that. And then, so you did the 96, what was it 96, right? Unit deal?
Yeah.
Or 90,
Yeah.
95.
Yeah.
And then like, what was next? Like, did you like do that and you're like, oh, this is like legit. And like, I'm going to start going in this, or like, how was that transition?
It was a little rough because we were new landlords and bought those apartment complexes, and then 4 months later, COVID hit, right?
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden there was tons of delinquencies. We had vacancies that rose. We had property management in place that we weren't totally happy with. And we didn't know what we didn't know, right? We were just, it was, in one way, we're really lucky that we had that debt. Like, I keep coming back to the debt, but to me, my philosophy is that I'll buy anything if the terms are right and if the debt is right. And we had really good debt on it, which I think saved us through COVID when we started having more delinquencies and vacancies and things like that. Because we had a plan. We said we're going to do one of these syndications every year. And then COVID hit and we were like, let's pump the brakes and figure out how to be landlords first.
Let's learn that jump the gun.
Yeah. Now we still kept buying. And we're up to, I think, about 145 doors now, but we haven't done one of those big syndications since. But our goal is to do another one in 2022 now that we've stabilized it and we've kind of taken our licks and learned the hard way how to be landlords. So
yeah. On that topic too, is like, what are some of the things that I'm sure you got kicked in the nuts a couple times in that whole process. So what are some of the things you took away that were pretty important?
I think one thing is that most people generally are good people and want to do the right thing. And so we really tried to work with our tenants and put together payment plans and work with the people who genuinely needed help. But there was about 3 to 5% of our tenants that we called, the COVID criminals, who were just out for free money, right?
Yeah.
They're like, I don't have to pay you, so I'm not going to. Meanwhile, you know that they have a good job and they absolutely could pay you.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that was part of the challenge, and especially since we had Freddie Mac debt, which is government-backed debt, we had eviction moratoriums that were more strict than anybody else in our market.
Yeah,
So it was challenging for sure. Yeah.
that makes sense.
How did that end up going on? They released it. When did it? Is it last March? When was it? June?
They didn't finally release our eviction moratoriums until September.
God.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. 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 It was pretty wild.
That's crazy. I'm assuming that since you know leaning back on the debt, since you know it's lower interest rates and stuff, your notes less, so you're able to make up for that vacancy and the delinquencies and all that kind of stuff, and not be hurt too bad, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And when we underwrote our deals, we always stress test them down to what we think is the worst case scenario. And it just so happened that the beginning of COVID was that worst case scenario.
It's the worst case.
You know?
There you go. Dude.
Yeah, it's only up from there, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
For sure. Yeah.
So you
So
guys,
how did you get, Jake?
Go
So
ahead,
we're in
Gino.
there, right? You got your apartment, your 95, 96 unit. I know you've been buying up there now. You're at 145, but I know we've also, you know, we're in the mastermind together, Collective Genius, which we'll talk about, but also Sub 2. Tell us how you started into that too, because I know I remember we were mutual members.
You know, it started actually again with the banking relationship. So I had a guy who I developed a relationship with. He was really a mentor to me. He's an amazing guy named Mike Malden, and he was head of the American Banking Association, the entire country, and happened to work in a tiny little bank in the Texas Panhandle that you would never guess had like a $15 billion market cap.
Really? Oh my God!
Wow.
And he was tapped. He left that bank because he was tapped to run the new banking master's program at Texas Tech. And so one of the things that we did is I was talking to him about, you know, what I wanted to do in real estate and what I wanted to build. And he said, if I were you and I were in your position, I would buy up as many as I could of these cheap houses and I would wrap them. Don't come get money from me. Go be the bank.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And which was really eye-opening to me at the time because I had never heard of wraps. I had never heard of doing this. I just thought you go get a bank loan and you buy a rental, right?
Uh-huh.
And so at that same time, I continued with our direct-to-seller marketing, and we'd started, you know, sending more direct mail, and we started to get leads and started to buy properties. And I partnered with someone to flip the stuff that we didn't want to keep as a rental. And so we started flipping some properties.
Yep.
And then I thought, well, I'm going to take one of these flips, one of these cheap little houses. Let's fix it up a little bit, and then let's sell it on seller financing. So we put together a whole process around that and learned how to deal with the RMLOs and how to do underwriting and how to, you know, set up a wrap and do all that kind of stuff. And right about that time, I just started wanting to learn more and more about creative financing and found some YouTube video of Pace, like on a whiteboard, breaking down deals. And it was like, I think I was I joined Sub 2 right at beginning of August of 2020. So pretty early on, and immediately started buying stuff Sub 2. We've bought, I guess now 6 Sub 2s in 2021. I just closed on 2 of them this week, actually.
Heck yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can you break down one of those deals from this week?
Yeah, sure. So one of them was a real challenge. We've been working on it for months, and there was a bunch of title issues. The guy was in pre-foreclosure, and it's going to be a rental for us. We got him out, cleared up all of his arrears for 10 grand, took it over Sub 2, no money to the seller. We're going to put about another 10 grand into it. So all in, we'll be in it for 20, but we'll have right around $40,000 worth of equity in that property, and it'll cash flow about $400 a month. So, that's a 25%-ish cash on cash return for me. I want to be above 20% on any of the deals that I keep in my portfolio. Plus, I have the upside of the equity as well. And I've started looking at some of my sub-twos to see if there's a possibility I might refi out of them. Even though I love keeping that debt that's not in my name, I'm going to selectively look and see if there's some of these that have a bunch of equity, just pull that cash out of it. So this might be one of those that we do that.
No, makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm actually trying to do that with my one sub-2 I have is a triplex. The only one I have, but we bought it for 140. The purchase price was 140. We gave the seller 20 grand. His mortgage was 120, and it's worth as is now on the market 300,000. It's a triplex in a really hot area, so it's just like record-breaking comps like that were hitting up. So like now it's like, God, I got a VA loan on it, 2.3 or 2.5% interest. So it's like I don't want to refinance, but it's so much equity. It's like, do I refinance? And because I know I will only be able to get like a 5%. High 4s, 5s with like a commercial loan, but through my entity. With that being, that much equity, I don't know what it's worth or not. We're trying to debate whether we 1031 it or it's all. There's so many different things,
There's a strong argument made to keep as many sub-twos as you can because the debt's not in your name, right? Yeah. And it's amazing, but I think it's also important to be open to trying to get some equity out of it, because then your cash can go so much farther. You can pull that cash out and just do 5 more deals.
Yeah, exactly. Five more like tight sub-2 deals, like when you're market value. So much more depreciation, so much all that good stuff.
We've got a couple sub-2s that we're turning into that we turned into Airbnbs as well. So my favorite sub-2 of all time, I bought it for $0. It was just the closing costs. I actually gave the sellers a $500 gift card to Walmart just to say thank you. And we turned it into an Airbnb, and it cash flows about $800 a month.
Look at that.
Net. So
is that in Texas?
Yeah. That's in Amarillo.
Nice.
So it's a powerful strategy. It's really powerful.
Yeah, for sure. It is. We went away from it a little bit more in our normal process in our business because we were getting a ton of appointments but not converting on anything. But like we'll pitch it on like the survey call, like after the fact, like if it doesn't convert to a contract from a cash deal or whatever. But yeah, we just like what we set, probably like 200 seller finance appointments, and none of them converted to anything.
Wow. Yeah. We're pretty selective about it. So the way we're doing it right now is that if there's a creative deal, my acquisition managers kick it to me, and then I close it. Ideally, I want them to learn how to do creative closings on their own. They're all amazing and super smart. I know they can do it, but they're still learning how to close on a creative deal. Really, the underwriting part is a challenge. There's kind of an art and a science to underwriting a creative deal. But I know they'll get there. But for now, they kick them to me. But we're really selective about them. And so
you pitch them, yeah.
I think I have like 100% close ratio on creative, but that's just because we only pitch it to people we know that it's going to work for them. So.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, because what we were doing is our lead managers were finding, or they were just like, taking the easy way out of every deal, or every seller, so just like, this might be a seller finance deal because they want market value.
Yeah.
Push it. And they don't want any of the terms, It's like it's not a waste of time. It's just like you talked about. It's just you got to be finding that one thing, and now we're gonna have just like our sales manager pitch it, if needed be. But it's not gonna be like, because if not, again, the human mind will just pick the easiest route, and we've seen that we lose like a lot of cash deals because they'll get the cash price original one, and then they'll give up. The lead managers will give up and pressing on that negotiation or shooting off, because they're just wanting, oh, this guy would be good for creative finance, just move them on.
That makes sense.
But
Yeah. Also, like the acquisition side too is like just the price negotiation and keeping them down. Like, don't just jump up because you can and then you lose everything. So, but that's one of the things we changed. But yeah. So, what does your business look like right now, Jake?
Right now, I have an amazing team. If I'm good at anything, it's attracting talent, because I've got some people that work for me who are way better than I am.
heck yeah.
And I've got 2 acquisitions managers. They're awesome. One of them is local in Amarillo. One of them is virtual in Dallas. And then I have we've got 1 full-time lead manager, because we've honestly, that's been the hardest role for us to fill, but we've got another one that's starting here in a couple weeks. We have a full-time project manager, because at any given time we've got at least 5 rehabs going on. And we're trying to move away from doing as many big rehabs, but in the past we were doing big giant rehabs, $80,000, $100,000 projects. So, and we've got, I've got a few full-time VAs. I have one VA that's like my right-hand man. I couldn't do anything without him. He's my marketing VA. He pulls all our lists, puts together all of our marketing campaigns. And then I also have a right-hand woman, Kelsey, who I couldn't run my business without her. She's really the operations person. I call her my COO. She thinks that's too fancy of a title, but she's amazing. And she really, she's handling our CRM, handling our integrations, training our lead managers, hiring, all that kind of stuff. So, and then we recently hired a full-time dispositions manager as well.
Okay.
And I have a full-time executive assistant too. So I think
we need to talk about that.
12 of us, something like that right now, which is pretty crazy since we started 2021 with just me and one other guy.
Tell me too, Jake, because you said you have a thing for attracting, high-level talent. Why do you think that is? Like, is there anything you can point to that why you believe you are really good at doing that?
I don't know. It's a really good question, and I feel like I should ask my employees why they decided to come work for me. I think there's a couple things maybe that help with that, and one is being really, really clear about your core values as a company, and putting a lot of effort into that in the beginning when we're hiring. And so, our number one core value is that we put people before profits, and we lead with a servant's heart. So that is when we're working with our sellers, we're trying to do the best by them, but also internally within our company, we're trying to serve each other. So I believe that my role as a leader is to serve my employees and try to find out what motivates them, what their goals are, and try to help them reach their goals. And by doing that, then they're going to help our company reach our goals. And so I love the mentoring process too, in working with my employees, and try to spend as much time as I can helping them, not even, just in their role in the company, but also outside that as well. And, in anything that they want to achieve. A lot of my employees have bought properties from us, right, to help build their own real estate portfolio. Because I want them to build wealth for themselves too. So they get to buy deals from us at a discounted price.
Nice.
I like that.
I
think those are all super big
How does
things.
that work, Jake, inside the business? How does that work? Like, do you assign it to them?
Yeah.
How would that work?
Yeah. Basically, I mean, we're selling the deals to our employees and making sure that the company's still making money, but they get a little bit of a discounted price to buy a property themselves. And right now I'll just put this out there. I'm really trying to find one of my acquisitions managers a sub 2 for her own personal house in Dallas. So if anybody has a sub 2 in North Dallas, please hit me up, because my Elisa, my acquisitions manager, she really needs a house. So
Like
there you
that.
go. How can they contact you, Jake? If they
email is the best way. It's jake@rspur.com, RSPUR.
There you go. Quick,
Thank you.
easy, hassle-free. But I
Yeah.
think going back to finding out what your team wants, like, well, the core values, of course, are huge. I think that's like
Made a video on that too.
foundation.
Actually, I think it posted on YouTube right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
Core
that's a
values.
big video. The core values, or just a big thing in general, because everyone, like, the more we talk about it and the more like we're intentional, even though it sounds like super weird when you say, like, what are our core values, and you harp on this, and talk about it all the time. It's like, it sounds cheesy, but people really buy into it and like get behind it because no one else does it. Like, no other company they've ever worked for like cares about them in that way, like the values, and then like what do they want to do with their life and how can that align to the company. I mean, there's very few companies probably that are out there doing that. So
Yeah.
most everyone's like, you guys are the first people to do that. It's crazy. I love working here. That's the whole. I'm sure you get that all the time too, Jake, from what you do.
I hope so. Yeah, I get some love. I hope they're loving their job as much as I love them working for me. So
Yeah.
sure.
Heck
Yeah,
yeah.
I think too. It's easy if you're not really intentional about your core values. Sometimes it's easy to hire a person that is like a rock star, and they're going to crush it, but they're going to poison your team.
Mhm.
And
We all know someone like that.
yeah, and this last round of hiring, when we were looking for a new acquisition manager, we interviewed a bunch of people, and there was one guy that we interviewed who was a super experienced salesman, and I knew he was going to be really good, but he just wasn't quite the right fit for core values, right? And so it would be easy to hire that guy if you weren't really intentional about your core values, and then you come to regret it 6 months later when everybody's pissed off because all he cares about is himself.
How do you test it, Jake? How are you testing that with the clients, or not clients, but the employees or the applicants before they start?
We do a few things. One, I have to put checks on myself because it's too easy for me to make impulsive decisions and just hire people that sound good and that I like. And so they go through a couple stages of a process. So first is they have a conversation with me. That's really for me to, it sounds bad, but it's almost like a sales call for me to sell them on the company, right? And I want to get them fired up about the position. I want to talk about our core values. I want them to know who we are, and I want them to be really interested in it, and believe in us. And if they're not, if that's not a fit on the first call, then they're definitely out, right? Mm-hmm. But then it's going through a process to verify that they're going to be a good fit, and I'm not in charge of that because honestly, I think I'm probably pretty bad at it. Because I'm going to be attracted to the person who I just like, and I'm going to be impulsive. So they definitely go through the PI profile, predictive index. And then they also then go through a second round of interviews with Kelsey, who I think it does a better job than me of discerning whether or not they're going to be a good fit for our core values. And then they can come back around to me and we'll have another conversation and just kind of verify things. But I think spreading out the decision over time and having multiple people talk to them, and then putting them through some sort of personality profile test is super important.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think like especially once you get to the more talented people who know they're talented, it's like that sales conversation. It's like you are pitching them on why you should work for me. You have to get them bought in. Like, we're going to do great things here. It's going to be great for you to be here. So, especially when they're on the fence and that it's good. But I like how you do that at the beginning, because I think right now we have that conversation more towards the end of of our process. But I think like having that at the beginning might even be better, just like reflecting on how we do it too. But yeah, so that's sweet. But so you got your team going on, and what are y'all doing for marketing? I know we talked about you got some TV ads or something that you're looking at doing, or?
Yeah, we're excited about that. Up to till now, for the first year, we did a lot of direct mail, and we did really well with direct mail. We're a smaller market, and we got a really good response rate. We would get up to a 2% response rate for direct mail.
Thank you.
That's good.
That's changed a lot, and we've seen that response rate drop off by like 90%. It's crazy. And we've done a lot of split testing to try to figure out, can we improve it? And I feel like we've wasted a lot of money. And so we're putting a pause on direct mail right now. I hope we can get back to it, because it's still, we've made a lot of money with direct mail. It was really effective, but we do some cold calling. We have for at least a year now. To be honest, cold calling isn't one of our best channels. It's still, the price per contract is still a little high for cold calling. I think there's room for improvement there, and we could get better at it. I know you've been helping me out trying to get texting started, because we've never done texting, and we've got 75,000 skip trace records that we could start skip tracing, and we've never texted them before. So we're going to try to do that. The heart of our business is really REI Sift. I'm a big believer in REI Sift and managing our data. And we have a full-time VA. That's all he does is manage REI Sift and stack our lists and try to find, those highly motivated records in there. We do.
Hey, real quick before I interrupt.
Yeah.
Can you explain REI Sift for everyone that might not know watching or?
Yeah, for sure. So sometimes REI Sift's a little hard to explain of what it actually is. So I think that the heart of it is a data management platform, right? So you put all of your data into it, and then you're able to tag it and put it into lists so that you can organize it and get a lot of clarity around your data and know where your data is coming from and where it's going to. It also has some great integrations with different software platforms, whether, Zapier to do whatever you want, but also direct integrations with call tools and REI Reply, I think, and things like that. So there's more and more people using REI Sift as a standalone CRM as well. Pretty high level people are using it as a CRM. And I think where they're going with REI Sift in the next 6 to 12 months it's going to be pretty cool. And I think a lot of people, especially if you're starting out or running a smaller team, it might be on the short list for what you should use, not just for data management, but for a CRM as well. Even though we don't.
Because it also doesn't it also integrate directly with a couple phone systems inside, right? So it
integrates with AirCall, which is a really good phone system, really easy to use, and so you can click to dial, within REI Sift, and a lot of people are doing that as well.
Yeah.
Very nice.
But we use it just as the way to manage our marketing and to organize all of our marketing. So whether that's direct mail campaigns or cold calling campaigns, it's all coming directly from REI Sift, and we can track how many times we've called people. We can track what numbers are good, what numbers are bad. We can track how many times we've skip traced people and put them through a flow, so that we're maximizing our marketing dollars and not just blasting out high equity lists or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Got Andrew here in sub 2.
Big sub 2.
What's up, bud?
Cool.
Let's do it.
Yeah, the REI Sift tool is from again, we're diving into it right now, but it looks pretty freaking sweet from all the things that it's able to do. The cool thing too is if you use it as a CRM, I was thinking about it just now, is people call you in, and it's just this is pretty common, but if people call you in, it probably pops up their name, right? An inbound call, because their data's already in there. And I'm sure there's some other cool features too like that, but
having a CRM that also holds all of your prospecting is kind of a new thing, right? Most people they only have leads in their CRM. They don't have prospects in their CRM, right? So, and they're adding tons of new features all the time. And I think they have great customer service, and it's a really stable platform. So I don't mean to sound like a fanboy or this is an REI Sift commercial, but I do believe
the REI Sift fanboy.
Yeah.
We can get you a t-shirt.
Yeah. I'm sure Tyler would appreciate that.
So Jake, they'll have another question. You brought up your executive assistant.
Yeah.
Me and Shannon just hired ones ourselves the last month. Tell us what your executive assistant's doing, how you lay out a plan for her or him,
Sure.
all that good stuff.
So I think one thing to start with is that for my executive assistant, I decided to use a recruiting agency. So I used Darren Carr with Carr Talent to find my EA, and I committed that this person's going to make, a pretty hefty salary, and I didn't want to go like the VA route or the virtual route. I actually wanted her to be, in the office with me, and
Gotcha.
so. I committed that I was going to spend more money on that because I really wanted somebody local to me who had experience. She had been an executive assistant for another real estate investor. She'd worked for a property management company. So she had real estate experience. She's really smart, really capable. Honestly, we're still sorting out what she's doing because she just started at the beginning of December. But I know she's going to be hugely valuable. What she's helping with right now a lot is transaction coordination, and really being an assistant to me on TC stuff because I've been doing all my own TC for the last few months. And so that's our next hire is going to be actually a VA that's going to do all the TC. So we're building out a process around that. She's helping build out that process and
Nice.
so that then that can be delegated to a VA. She has a ton of social media experience, and I don't know, like I guess I'm a dinosaur. Like I'm terrible at social media. So that's one of our big goals for 2022 is to be better at social media. She's going to help put together a plan for that and really manage our social media campaigns. I think one of the big things I do is that she has 100% access to my email inbox, which a lot of people would be kind of scared about, and like really you have to trust somebody just to turn over a whole bunch of access to someone. But I think if you're going to have an effective EA, you really need to have someone that you trust completely, that you can really turn things over to. And so she's processing my email box, and then we use ClickUp. I think you guys use Asana, same kind of thing. So she's taking my email inbox and converting it into to-do lists and tasks and archiving things. And so that was the turning point for me to know that I needed an EA when I stopped being able to respond to emails in a timely fashion. Because I was always prided myself on being really responsive. And then at a certain point I got too busy and people were like, dude, I've been calling you and texting you and emailing you for a week and you haven't gotten back to me. And it's literally because I have no time. So that was the signal to me that I needed an EA.
I like that.
I think I like that. Like just using the executive assistant to optimize yourself and systemize yourself out pretty much. So they kind of act like I've heard. I think Jimmy Vreeland from Collective Genius said that you could use the executive assistant almost like a COO in a way. Because they do a lot of the similar type stuff. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but that's one of the things.
Well, it's whatever you want. Whatever you want.
I guess that's true.
For him, he probably is like COO,
Yeah. Like one thing, it seems like a small thing, but like she's in my email box and she has her own signature. That's her face and her, and her name. And she responds to my emails and just puts her signature in there. Gotcha. Right. So I'm not even responding to all of my own emails anymore, which is huge for me because I was getting really backlogged.
They know it's her as her signature too, which is important.
Yeah. Email is definitely one that I hate email. Just like you go in there and it's like an hour's gone of your time, just poof. You might as well just subtract it out. So it's definitely, that's a dark hole. Gino, Vivian, was she doing some of your email stuff or no?
No, I have her. I don't get that much emails anymore, so I'm actually lucky. I get a lot of some spam stuff, but I get like 3 or 4 important emails a day. So I just focus on that. But I have her, my executive assistant. She's planning out her video content for me, and when I'm doing it. She's uploading like any mastermind links to my calendar. managing my calendar. What else do you do? I mean, just reoccurring task at that point. Then just many like whatever's coming up that day, calling, managing some of my property stuff, just like utility companies and things like that. So I don't have to spend an hour on hold with Xfinity too.
Oh,
I
that's a
have to
huge
set
one.
that up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Every time we buy or sell a property, all the utility companies have to be contacted. We have to, put insurance on it, take insurance off.
Giant
And
pain.
I would screw that up all the time just because I hated it so much.
Yeah.
And so that's delegated. I'm never going to call a utility company ever again.
Yeah, that's a good feeling.
It's just such a waste of time. It's like 30-minute convo just to turn power on and off,
Yeah.
at least. But
yeah.
One of the big things that I did with my executive assistant, which is he's more of like the IT director, because that's really where a lot of my time gets sucked from. Is like I just made like a Asana, and now every task that needs to be done is just in there as like a task CRM, and I made like a little system to where I can track like how many hours they saved me. And last 4 weeks, I was saved 100 for the last 4 weeks. I was saved 121 hours roughly.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
so that's a lot of time.
Yeah, that's amazing.
A lot of time, yeah.
So it's big. I mean, if you
$1,000
don't
an
have
hour.
one and you're busy, you should get one.
I was talking to one of my partners that I have on the apartments. I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about getting an executive assistant. Do you think I should get one? And he was like, bro, you should have gotten one 2 years ago. I don't know why you're even talking to me about this. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So much money. Just time is money, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a big thing a lot of people don't look at, How much
it's like
time
because the more I feel like sometimes the bigger your team gets, the more your team grows and stuff. Like you said, like with the syndication, like how much administrative work goes into that. A lot more administrative work goes into growing a team and building a company, and like all that stuff you don't really realize. This is important because this is what you do now that you have a team and all this. But an executive assistant or a virtual assistant can literally do all of that stuff for you, and you can go back to focus on growing the company instead of wasting 20 hours a week fiddling around with emails or doing this and that and all the work that's just not revenue generating.
Exactly.
I mean, my time should be spent, thinking up strategy, executing on strategy, developing my team, spending time with my team, and then having, high level conversations with important people that I need to connect with, whether that's, lenders or new vendors on any of our kind of stuff. That's what I should be spending my time on. And, at a certain point, I was spending 20, 30 hours a week on admin stuff. And it was killing me, really killing me.
And you probably hate it too.
Yeah.
So on a point you just brought up too, I know we talked about it earlier, but you said before you even got into doing deals, you were building bank relationships. What was it like? How did that conversation go to like start building those relationships with these banks?
I think part of it is a mindset shift. So in the beginning, I was really scared to have these conversations, right?
Yeah.
Because bank is this big, powerful thing, and they've got the biggest building in town, and you think that you'd be lucky if they give you something. But the reality is that they're there to sell money. And if you don't walk in the door, they're out of business. And so I think it was an important mindset shift to say, they need me more than I need them. And once I had that shift, then I could walk in there with confidence and talk about what I wanted to do and my plan and I mean, part of it was knowing what I was talking about, right? I had done my research. I knew what I was talking about. Even though I hadn't done a deal yet, I didn't walk in there and sound like an idiot, right?
Yeah, you knew all the Bigger Pockets podcasts.
Yes, I've memorized them, right? But I had an actual plan for what I wanted to do, and it was really, I was just talking about the BRRRR strategy. I just wasn't using those terms because they didn't know what BRRRR was, right? So what I found was that the first conversation went okay, but I just kept going from bank to bank to bank. And by the end of it, I was having really, really good conversations with people, and those banks were fighting for my business because they probably get a lot of idiots that walk through their doors asking for money. And so if you can come in and know what you're talking about, and have an actual business plan together, they want to sell you money. And so at a certain point, I started playing them off of each other and saying, hey, this other bank's going to give me X term and rate for this. What can you do? And I'm just negotiating against them.
I love
I'm
it.
trying to get the best rates and terms that I can. And I still do that, right? I'm always shopping for better rates and terms. I'm always developing new relationships with banks, and I'm very transparent about it too. Like I'm not hiding it. The banking relationships I haven't burned any bridges, I hope, with any of those guys. I still go back to them. I'll still refer business to them. I'll get those bankers send me a text message. Thank you so much for referring so-and-so to me. No, I'm not using him anymore. I know, that bank is a good fit for this person and that investor, whatever. And so, being transparent, being honest, but also just having the confidence to say, hey, I know there's somebody out there that can give me a better rates and terms. So, yeah. And you level up over time, right? So the bankers that I'm talking to nowadays are giving me 30-year fixed debt at low interest rates on our refis. Mm-hmm. We're going to refi out in the next couple of months, like $640,000 out of our rentals.
Oh, that's nice.
And that wouldn't have been possible 2 years ago. I didn't have those relationships 2 years ago. I didn't have the experience. I didn't have the track record. But I got the best that I could at the time and did it, and then constantly looking to build better relationships with lenders over time.
That's it right there. I think that's powerful.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that one of my buddies does a lot of syndications out that I met in Denver, and he was like he underwrites actually for this company that sells the Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, and he's like, dude, the rates you get from the banks, that isn't the rate that's not their lowest.
No.
Yeah.
So,
when you think about the kind of rates that the hedge funds and the REITs are getting, oh my God, it's nothing like what we could get. They're getting 2.8 or something crazy, 30-year fix, right? We can't get that as on our level, but you can constantly get a little bit better every day. So.
Yeah. So let's answer some questions here. We got a couple more minutes left. And so Andrew was asking, what are some good questions to ask lenders?
I think one, using their language, right? And this is something that kind of you learn over time, but there's a little bit of kind of inside baseball in lenders, and being able to talk to them on their level is helpful. And I mean, you got to kind of fumble through some bad conversations in the beginning, I think, to understand that. But I would ask them questions about, these rates and terms that you're giving me. Is this a portfolio loan? Or are you going to go sell this on the secondary market? Right? And now that's kind of getting behind the curtain of what a bank does. And it lets them know that you know what you're talking about. But it also gives you an important insight into what they can offer you, right? So the kind of lenders who can go sell on the secondary market, which is called CBMS, so commercial-backed mortgage securities, and I can't remember what it stands for.
That's probably about right.
But
Sounds right.
They're selling it on the secondary market. They're creating notes, and then they're selling those notes. It's almost like wraps, right? But on the lender level. So they can give you way better rates and terms if they're selling that debt on the secondary market, as opposed to if they're keeping it in-house as a portfolio loan. Because now they've got to underwrite it to, well, we can't mitigate our risk by selling off part of this debt. So that's how I've leveled up over time, is trying to find those relationships with people who are selling their debt on the secondary market, because they can give you way cheaper stuff. Way cheaper stuff.
I like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the Big Short, Andrew said.
Exactly.
Like
yeah.
Jake, I know you reached out, and I know you've already mentioned that, or how people can reach out to you. What's one of the last things you want to leave the listeners with?
I think one thing, and if you email me, I can put you on the schedule. But every Wednesday afternoon for 2 hours, I have office hours, and so that's anybody who wants to talk to me about anything at all, whether you're a brand new investor or an experienced investor. I love having conversations with other investors, and so hit me up with email, and I'll give you my Calendly link. And if you want to have a longer conversation about anything at all, if there's anything I can help you with, I love doing that. So.
Heck yeah.
I like that. That's
Thank
big.
you.
Thank you, Jake.
Thanks
Awesome.
for dropping that knowledge, Jake. And hopefully
Yeah,
we'll be
man.
shooting some pigs soon.
Yes, sir.
Let's do it. See y'all. Take care.
See ya. Peace.
Oh, I think I kicked everyone out on accident, everyone. Big Jake, thanks for